Please be seated.
Yes, Mr. Milosevic.
Da li ste sve vreme pre početka
Prior to the beginning
vašeg rada u
of your
KVM-u živjeli u
work
Peći?
with the KVM, have you always lived in Peć?
Oh,
Yes.
Da li ste pre toga proveli jedno vreme u
And
Švajcarskoj i
have
Nemačkoj?
you spent some time in Switzerland and Germany prior to that?
Në Gjermani kam qenë në të dytën vetëm në
In
vizitë
Germany, I
shkurt.
was in 1992 for a short visit.
I sve vreme ste ostalo proveli u zemlji.
And the rest of the time you spent in the country.
Po,
Od
Yes.
92. do 98. bez prekida niste išli u
From
inostranstvo.
92 until 98 without any interruption, meaning you didn't go abroad, did you?
jo, nuk kam dalë.
No, I haven't been abroad.
Rekli ste da je u Peći bilo
You said
90% Albanaca.
That 90%, the population of Peć was 90% Albanian.
Što unë mendoj?
That's what I think.
Ali prema podacima
But based on
koji kažu stoji da je bilo
the existing figures,
76% Albanaca u Peći.
76% of the population of Peć was Albanian.
Unë kam thënë prafërsisht, po nuk mund di saktësisht.
I said approximately, but I do not know exactly the figure.
Dobro, da se vratimo onda na
Very well. In that case,
same događaje koje
let us
opisujete.
go back to the events that you
Ja ću
described.
početi od kraja.
I will start with the most recent events you described at the end.
Vi ste opisali događaje 24.
You described
do
the
29.
events
marta kad
from
ste
the
prešli u Albaniju.
24th until the 29th of March when you crossed into Albania.
Da li je tih dana Peć bila ratna zona?
Was Peć a war zone during those days?
Nuk pe kuptoj pyetjen.
I don't understand the question.
A 24. je počela agresija
The
NATO.
NATO aggression started on the 24th,
Priličan broj meseci pre toga
and for a
su
number of
vođene borbe
months
sa
prior to
formacijama
that,
OVK. Da
there
li je
were
Peć bila tih dana kad ste vi napustili
clashes
Peć, kad su izbjeglice
with the
napuštale
KLA
Peć, Peć bila ratna zona?
formations. During those days, as you were leaving Peć, was Peć already a war zone?
Siç kam thënë edhe më herët, domethënë
As I've said earlier,
forcat të UÇK-s nuk ka pas në Pej kështu
there were
siç
no KLA forces in Peja
luftë
town,
tjetër nuk di.
but I do not know of any other war.
Dobro, na to ćemo se onda vratiti kasnije na
All
te
right,
snage
we'll
OVK.
go back to the KLA forces at a later stage.
Tih dana je ceo pogranični pojas bio
The
ratna
entire
zona
border
i
zone during those
vi
days
ste opisali
was a
izbjeglice
war zone, in
koje
fact.
su napuštale
You
ratnu zonu.
described refugees that were leaving the war zone.
Prema tome, da li je tačan zaključak
Therefore,
da
would it
su
be
vam
true
vojnici i
to
policajci
conclude
pomogli,
that soldiers
odnosno
and
vama i drugim
policemen
civilima da
helped
napustite
you
ratnu
and other
zonu?
civilians to leave the war zone?
Jo nuk mendoj ashtu,
I don't think so,
se
because
përndryshe kam qenë i rafun dhe i maltretuar,
I
po
was
ashtu
beaten
edhe
up and
qytetarë
mistreated,
tjerë kanë
and
qenë
so were
maltretuar.
other citizens.
Dhe nuk kam ikur nga Kosova për
And I did not
asnjë
leave
arsye
Kosovo
përveç se kam
for
pas frikë që
Any other
do të më
reason
ndodhi diçka e keqe nga ana e policisë të ushtrisë.
other than being frightened of something happening to me from the Serb police and army.
Ja vas pitam samo za činjenice. Oni su od
I'm
vas
asking
tražili
you only about
da
the facts. They
pitali vas hoćete li da nosite parolu protiv
asked
NATO.
you whether you wanted to
Tako su
carry
rekli.
an anti-NATO slogan. That's what you said, didn't you?
Po e kam thënë atë.
Yes, I did say that.
I šta ste im vi odgovorili?
And what did you reply to them?
Jam përgjigj po se po të kisha thënë jo, as nuk mund ta
I
marr me
answered
mend se çfarë
yes,
më kishte
because
ndodhur.
if I were to have said no, I couldn't have imagined the consequences, what would have happened to me.
U svakom slučaju, želeli
At
ste
any
da
rate,
idete iz vašeg grada
you
u
wanted
pravcu Rožaja,
to
znači
go from your
Prema Crnoj Gori.
town towards Rože, meaning to Montenegro.
Jo, unë nuk kam deshur të shkoj asgjë kundi, por
No, I did not
rrethanat kanë qenë
want
asoj
to
që
go
duhet të largohej
anywhere,
diku
but
gjatë
the
kësaj periudhe,
circumstances
kësaj situate.
forced me to take a decision during that period.
Vi ste rekli da ste krenuli sa
You
svojim
said that you
roditeljima prema
started
Rožaju
with your parents
i da vas
in the
je
direction
na
of
putu na
Rože, and
raskrsnici
that
vratila policija
at the crossroads you
da
were
bi se
turned
ukrcali
back
u
by the
autobuse
police
da ne
in order
pešačite.
to board
To
the
je bilo
buses
objašnjenje koje ste vi dali.
rather than walk.
Dakle,
That's the
vi ste išli prema
explanation
Rožaju.
you gave us here. Therefore, you were walking in the direction of Rože.
Ne kemi vendosur të shkojmë në Rozhaj, se
We
ka qenë
decided to go
kështu
to
afër,
Rajaja because it was
domethënë,
close by,
dhe mendonim që do të ishte më e sigurt
and
po
we
të
thought it would be
shkonim atje
safer
dhe të strehohemi
if
për
we
një
went
kohë.
there and take shelter for some time.
Inače je teritorija Crne Gore manje bombardovana.
The territory of Montenegro
teritorija
was
Srbije, a
less
još
bombed
manje
than the
nego
entire territory of
teritorija
Serbia,
Kosova. Da
and
li to
even
znate?
less than the territory of Kosovo. Are you aware of that?
Po mendoj për bombardimet e NATO-s
I'm thinking about
në
NATO
Serbi,
bombing in
Maltezi,
Serbia and
gjitha këto
Montenegro.
i kam shiquar përmes televizorit,
All
domethënë
of
përmes
that,
mjeteve
I've
informative.
followed these events through the media.
Ali ovo vezano za vaš odlazak prema Rožaju
But
je vezano također za
this
to
fact
bombardovanje.
pertaining to your
Jer pitanje
departure
koje
to
imam
Rože
glasi, da
has
li
something to
znate
do with the bombing as well. And
da je
the question I have for
25.
you is
marta
as follows. Do you know that on the 25th of
bombardovana
March,
teritorija Rožaja,
the area of Rože was
čak imam
bombed?
ovdje i podatak o
I
jednom
have
mladiću muslimanu
a
Senadu
fact
Dačiću,
here concerning a
16
young man,
godina,
a
dečaku
Muslim
koji
young
je
man,
poginuo,
Senad Dačić, a
i
16-year-old
o
who was killed.
velikom broju teško ranjenih.
And I
Tada,
also have information about a large number
dakle,
of
to je
wounded
vezano
persons.
za vaše vraćanje s tog
Therefore,
nesigurnog puta,
This is
jer su
why
upotrebljene
you were
kasetne
turned
bombe.
back from
Da li
that
znate za taj
road that
događaj?
wasn't safe, because on that occasion cluster bombs were used. Do you know about this?
Jo, nuk kam gjeni për këtë.
No, I don't know anything about that.
Dakle, Na putu kojim ste vi želeli da
Therefore,
idete
on the
iz Peći
road
prema Rožaju,
that you
bile
wanted
su upotrebljene
to
kasetne
use to go
bombe
from Peć to Rože, cluster
i zato
bombs
taj
were
put nije bio
used.
bezbedan za
This is
izbjeglice.
why
Vi o
that
tome ne
road
znate.
was
No,
not
he's-
considered to be safe for refugees.
Mr. Milosevic, he said he doesn't know about that. But perhaps the witness can help us with this. When the police turned you back, did they say anything about bombing?
Jo, nuk na kanë thënë fare për
No, they
bombardime apo një gjë
didn't
të tillë.
tell us anything of that sort or of bombing.
Dobro, onda da li
Very
vaši
well.
odgovori
In that
sugeriraju
case,
da
do your
Albancima
answers suggest
vlasti nisu dozvoljavale
that
da idu
the
prema Crnoj Gori?
authorities did not allow Albanians to go to Montenegro?
Nuk mund të di qëllimet.
I can't talk about their intentions.
Dobro, a da li znate
Very
da je
well.
nekoliko desetina
And
hiljada
Do you
izbjeglica sa
know
Kosova i
that
Metohije
several tens of
otišlo u
thousands
Crnu
of
Goru
refugees from
upravo
Kosovo and Metohija
tim putem,
went to
ali
Montenegro
kasnije,
using that very
kada na njemu
road?
nije bilo
But later on,
kasetnih bombi, da
when
li
there were
znate
no
dakle da
cluster
je
bombs on that
nekoliko
road, do
desetina
you
hiljada
know
građana
that
otišlo u Crnu
several
Goru?
tens of
Upravo
thousands
tim
of
putem.
citizens went using that same road to Montenegro?
Po ashtu edhe nuk e di me çfarë data janë larguar nga Kosova,
I also
Por
don't
kam
know
pas djeni,
when
domethënë,
they left Kosovo,
po ashtu nga media, nga
but I
mjetet
learned
informative
through the media
që disa mijë refugjat
that
janë strehuar në
several
Maltezi.
thousand refugees took shelter in Montenegro.
A pretpostavljate, pošto ste radili u verifikacionoj misiji,
Well,
da postoje
Because since you worked in the verification mission, you should know that there are figures of the UNHCR concerning the number of refugees.
Da ili ne?
Are you aware of that, yes or no?
Nuk më i të përgjigjem po apo jo, por
I can't answer yes or no,
thjesht
but simply
përmes mjeteve informimit
through the media,
kanë qenë do cifra të qytetarëve apo refugjatëve të strehuar në qytete
I
të
know
ndryshme.
that there were figures about different numbers of refugees who had taken refuge in different cities.
Dobro. Rekli ste na
Very well.
početku da
You said at the
je
beginning
napetost u Peći
that
izazvana
the tensions in Peć were caused by
onim što ste vi nazvali incident
what you called an incident
u kafiću Panda u Peći.
in the Panda Cafe in Peć.
Yes, he said that. What's the question?
Dobro.
All right.
Taj događaj se dogodio
That
14.
incident took
decembra
place on the
98.
14th of
godine.
December 98.
Da li se toga sećate?
Do you remember that?
Kam thënë edhe më herët që më
I said
kujtohet
before,
muji, por data
I
saksisht
remember
jo.
the month, but not the exact day.
Ali sećate se decembra, je li tako?
But you
98.
remember that it was in December of 98, is that right?
Po, më kujtohet që ka qenë në dhjetor.
Yes, I remember that it was December.
Pre toga smatrate da nije bilo
And you believe that
incidenata
prior to that,
koji su izazivali
there were
napetost.
no incidents that would lead to increased tension.
Për në qytet të Pejës nuk kam djeni.
I don't know of any in the city of Peja.
A to je relativan pojam. Da li
Well, that's
znate
a
od maja do
relative
novembra
thing.
98.
Do you know that
godine,
from
znači od
May
maja
until
meseca
November of
pa
98,
do novembra meseca
meaning
98.
from
godine,
May until November of 98,
da je policija imala sukobe sa UČK
that the police had
u velikom broju
clashes
sela oko
with the
Peći,
KLA in a large number
a
of
to je,
villages around
na
Peć.
primjer, Lođa vam je 2 kilometra
For
od
example,
Peći,
the village of
Ljubenić 2
Lođa is 2 kilometers from
Raušić
Peć,
5
Lubenić
kilometara,
also to
Strelac 10
Raušić 5
kilometara,
kilometers, Strelac 10
Brežnik i
kilometers,
tako dalje,
Brežnik, and so
da
on.
je ubijeno 6 pripadnika
6
MUP-a.
members of
Da li
MUP
se dakle
were
sećate
killed.
tih napada
So, do you
UČK
have knowledge
na
of these
policiju
attacks of the KLA
i uopšte i
on
na
the
civile
police
od maja
and
do
civilians
novembra
in
98.
generally
godine
from
u
May
neposrednoj
until
blizini
November
Peći?
of 98? All of these events took place in the area of Peć.
Lidhje
In connection with the KLA, I said before that they were in the hills and woods or in villages.
Atë që kanë pas që kanë kundërvu forcave serbe, komandoj policisë të ushtrisë.
I believe that they were opposed by Serbian forces. And all these things that I'm saying now are things that I've heard from the media. They were in the forests and they were helping the populace who had been expelled from their villages.
You were asked specifically about incidents in the villages around Peć, during which, as I understand it, it's alleged that 6 members of the MUP were killed. Do you have any knowledge of any such incidents? If you don't, say so.
No, I don't know about these incidents.
A da li znate, na primjer, za događaj
And do you know,
u
for
parku u
example,
Peći, to
about
je
an
hotel
incident
u
in
Karagaću, to vam je
the
u Peći, jel tako?
Karagać
Kada su
Hotel Park in Peć? This is an
došli
area of
predstavnici
Peć.
misije OEPS-a
When
da
the
provere
representatives of the
glasine,
OSCE mission
šta se
came
događa u
to
tom hotelu,
verify
da su
the rumors
razgovarali sa zamenikom
as to what was
komandanta
going on in
brigade
that
UČK
hotel,
koji se
and they
tu našao.
talked to the deputy commander of the KLA brigade, who happened to be there.
No, I don't know.
Vi ste rekli da ste radili u
You said that you used to work
verifikacionoj misiji.
at the verification
Pretpostavljam
mission.
da ste kao
Therefore, I
zaposleni u
suppose that you,
verifikacionoj
as an
misiji,
employee of the verification
imali bar
mission,
nešto više informacija nego
had more information available to
nego
you
ostali građani.
than the rest of the population.
Da li ste imali ili niste?
Did you have any information regarding this or not?
Nuk kam pas informata
I didn't have
me këto incidente.
information regarding this incident.
Për misionin verifikues në Kosovë.
And as for the
të OSBE-s, kam
verification
punuar si
mission
mbikëqyrës i rojeve apo gardes.
in Kosovo, I worked as a supervisor of the guards.
Rekli ste da nije bilo incidenata u
You said that
Peći.
there were no
Ja
incidents
ću
in
zbog
Peć.
kratkoće vremena
And in order
da vas
to
pitam
save the
samo
time, I will ask you
za
just
Albance.
about the
Da li
Albanians.
znate da je 26.
Do you know
maja
that on the
98.
26th of
godine u
May,
gradu, znači u
98,
Peći,
in the town itself,
ubijen
in Peć.
26. maja 98.
So on the
Komani
26th of May,
Sadrija.
98, Komani Sadia was killed. Do you know about that?
Jo, nuk e di.
No, I don't know.
A da li znate da je 2. juna ubijen
Do you know that
takođe
on the
Albanac i
2nd of
takođe u
June,
gradu i takođe u Peći,
another
dakle,
Albanian
Dači
was
Uka.
killed in Peć, therefore in the downtown as well, and his name was Tači Uka.
Nuk më kujtohet, nuk di.
No, I don't know. I don't remember.
A da li znate da je 3. juna
And do you know that on the 3rd of June, another Albanian was killed, Zulber Berisha, near the Peć Patriarchy?
No, I don't know.
Da li znate da su 24. jula
Do you know that on the 24th of June, Adem Đuka and Bakir Đuka were killed?
Yes, I know.
Samo taj događaj znate. A da li znate onda za događaj 1. avgusta kad je ubijen Zenun Gaši?
The event that took place on August 1st when Zenun Gashi was killed?
No, I don't know.
A 2. januara Veton Kelmendi?
Veton Kelmendi was killed on the 2nd of January.
No, I don't know.
A da li znate Rusten Sadrija kad je ubijen 11.
That Rusten Sadrija was killed on the 11th of January?
I don't know.
A Emin Basha 31. januara?
Emin Basha was killed on the 31st of January. Have you heard about this murder?
No, I haven't heard of it.
I 10. februara Ćerim
And on the
Sukaj, ni za njega
10th
niste čuli.
of February, Ćerim Sukaj was killed. You haven't heard about that either, have you?
No.
Vi ste radili u verifikacionoj
You used
misiji.
to work at the verification mission.
Da li znate da u
Do you
izveštaju
know that in
verifikacione
the
misije
verification
OEBS-a
mission's report,
za
this is
period
the
9. i
OSCE
12.
mission,
mart
pertaining
1999. godine,
to the period between 10th and 11th of March 99,
piše da
from 9th until 12th
je
of
po naredbi
March 98,
komandnih
it
struktura
says that
OVK
pursuant to the KLA command structure's order,
ubijeno više Albanaca lojalnih
more Albanians who were
Srbiji.
loyal to Serbia
Da li
were
znate za taj
killed.
izveštaj i da to
Do you
piše
know
u
about this
izveštaju
report?
KVN?
And do you know that this is
U kojoj
what
ste vi
the
radili?
report says? This was the report of the verification mission where you used to work.
No, I have not seen such reports or heard anything of this kind.
Dobro. Rekli ste da ste nise plašili
Very well.
bombardovanja
You
jer ne
said that
živite ni
you
blizu
were not
kasarne ni
afraid
blizu
of the bombing
policijske
because you
stanice.
didn't live near the barracks or the
Da li
police
znate da
station.
za vreme agresije
And do you know
uopšte
that
nije bilo
during
vojske u
the
Peći,
aggression,
da su svi
there
otišli
were
prema
no
granici?
troops in
li to
Peć
znate?
because they all left towards the area near the border? Do you know about that?
No, I don't know.
A da li znate da je u to vreme bilo
Do you
samo
know
18
that
sahrana
in those
policajaca iz
days
Peći koji su
there were
ubijeni od strane
18
UČK?
funerals of policemen
to
from
su
Peć
događaji
who were
obično koji
killed
se
by
zapaze
the
u gradu
KLA?
da su sahrane.
This
Da li
is
znate
something
za
that
to?
people usually take note of, the funerals. Do you know about this?
No, I have no knowledge of these things.
A da li znate da je za vreme cele
Do you
agresije
know
veliki broj
that a
Albanaca
large number of
i
Albanians
ogromna većina muslimana i
and a
Roma
huge majority
ostala
of
u Peći?
Muslims and Romani remained in Peć during the aggression, as did a large number of Serbs.
When I came back after the war and after the entry of the NATO forces in Kosovo, I found no Albanians, Romanis, or Muslims in Peja.
Znači, prazna je bila Peć kad ste vi došli.
Therefore, when you came back, Peć was empty. Is that what you're saying?
Yes, I only met a few soldiers of Italian KFOR.
Da li ste videli, pošto ste tada, kažete i sami, bili u Peći,
according to you, you were in Peć at that time. Did you see that 90% of the Serb houses in Peć were burned down at precisely the time when you came back to Peć?
When I returned, I only saw my own neighborhood and several neighborhoods that I know, and a lot of Albanian houses were burned. I didn't notice anything about Serbian houses.
Therefore, you don't know that 90% of the Serb houses in Peć were burned down.
No, I don't know about this.
Do
you know that all Serb villages in the Peć environs were burned down? For example, Crni Vrh, Breljoša, Brestovik, Vitanica, and so on. Do you know that all Serb villages in the environs of Peć were burned down?
After I returned to Peja, there was a very small number of Serbian houses that were burned, and as for the vacated and burned villages, I don't know about these.
But later, the remaining Serb houses were burned down. I assume that you should know about that. Do you know about that, or do you not know about that?
No, they weren't burned.
Dobro.
Very well.
Dakle, vi ste počeli sa objašnjenjem da je napetost u Peći izazvao, kako ste vi rekli, incident
as you called it, at the Cafe Panda.
I da vam svi ovi događaji i svi ovi ubijeni od maja do decembra, jer se događaj desio 14. decembra, nisu poznati i nisu proizvodili nikakvu napetost.
They did not create any tension whatsoever.
That's a comment, really, on the witness's evidence.
Ja pitam,
Just
dakle,
asking.
počeo je sa
He started
napetošću
out
izazvanom tim incidentom, kako ga je nazvao.
by the tensions caused by that incident, as he had called it.
Yes, that's his evidence.
Dobro.
All right.
Vi